Come Deliverance 2 is a tough game, and that is why I'm doing a few tips and tricks videos. This is another one of those tips and tricks videos. Before we get into the video though, if you have any tips that you want to share down with the community, don't forget to comment them down below in the comments. That way the community can grow and learn. This is a rather tough single player RPG after all, and the better we get to learn this map, the easier our starts are going to be. Now, at the very beginning of the game, after the prologue, you have the opportunity to go back to that little old lady that helped you out. If you do, you're going to be able to repay your debt. Yes, that's right. When you left her, you promised to repay her for everything that she done. Essentially, if it hadn't been for her, you would have probably died. So now you have the ability to repay the debt that you owe. Now, it does cost quite a lot of money, especially right at the beginning of your game. But if you are an achievement hunter, like many of us are, repaying that debt is the only way to get that achievement. I believe the achievement is called A Knight's Word. Now, I am told that it is slightly bugged on the PlayStation. That being, if you enter the second map and come back again, it's really difficult for you to actually get that achievement. So it may be something that you want to do before you move into that second map, just to ensure that you actually get that achievement and are able to 100% the game. Now, of course, even if you don't want to spend all that money straight away, going back to that place is actually really good. Don't forget, you do have an alchemy bench there. The old lady can actually teach you alchemy as well. And don't forget, her daughter is also a teacher. She can teach you many things like survival and, of course, marksmanship. So if you want to get good with that bow or that crossbow, she's a good place to start. There's also a really interesting side quest over here that you can only pick up if you do actually come here, and that is called Bad Blood. It's actually a really interesting side quest with a few different endings, so definitely go ahead and check that out. Now, one of the single best foods in the game, if not the best food in the game, is actually honey. And did you know that you actually have access to honey completely for free right at the beginning of your game? Yes, that's right. The town that you start in directly after the prologue opens up and the world map actually opens up has honey for you to just walk up and grab. Now I'm going to show you exactly where it is on the map. As you can see, we are in the starting town, and you walk up to these, and as you can see, we are not stealing. The reason honey is so good is because it has such a high nourishment. You only have to have one, maybe two of these every day in order to replenish your nourishment. It sells for quite a lot of money as well, and it does not spoil, meaning that you can build up a supply of honey and it will never spoil, which is pretty decent. Whether you eat it or sell it, either way, it's going to be beneficial to you. Now, there is actually more honey located in this town as well. Unfortunately, the rest of the honey that you find is going to count as stealing. So if you do go ahead and take it, make sure you're not seen in the process, because crimes are punishable here. And you don't want to be marked. You don't want to be punished and locked in the stocks. And you definitely don't want to be hung. So avoid being seen. However, if you do go ahead and steal that honey and you do get the stolen marker on the honey, I would say that if you put it in a box that you actually own, that mark of stolen goods will go away in a few days. It does take into consideration how valuable the item is. So if it isn't honey you've stolen, and perhaps it's a rather nice shiny sword that's worth a few thousand, then it's going to take a little bit longer to get rid of that stolen mark. So keep that in mind, and a little bit more of a bonus tip for you as well. Now, the next one's a little bit of a later tip. Now, as you go into your game, you will get access to a horse. You will level up your horsemanship as well, and you get access to a really interesting perk. Now, as you play through the game, you will build up You'll build up fear in bandits, for instance. Now, if you use Towering Menace, in other words, get your horse to rear, you've got a really good opportunity for the enemies that you're fighting to just run away from you, meaning you're not going to have to kill them. Now, remember, this is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Combat can be very, very difficult, especially when outnumbered. So, keeping in mind that grabbing Towering Menace and actually making your horse raise and scaring everyone around you is a pretty decent idea. Now, all you have to do to make your horse rear is press back and jump at the same time. If you do that, your horse will rear. Now, this next tip is referring to Mutt. If you haven't heard before, Mutt can get a little bit vocal at times. Now, in his very subtle way, he's telling you that he is hungry, so it's advisable to actually feed Mutt rather regularly. Now, in doing so, you can also pet him. Now, petting Mutt and feeding him will actually level up his obedience. And by that, of course, I mean obedience. You'll level up his obedience, meaning he's more likely to do what you ask when you ask and less likely to run away from combat scenarios. So making sure that your dog is well fed and feeling loved is a really good idea. Now, he doesn't take much food. In fact, did you know that Mutt can actually eat food that has completely lost its freshness? So if you have an apple, for instance, that's lost 100% freshness, you could actually feed that to Mutt. In theory, he doesn't get ill or anything like that. And of course, it does get rid of a food item that you no longer need. Now, if you've played this game a little bit by now, you've probably realized you can actually get Pebbles. Yes, that is the horse from the very first game. Now, Pebbles isn't necessarily a great horse. In fact, if you look at his stats, he's actually very, very underwhelming. In fact, you're going to find many horses that are better than him, and you're going to be tempted to steal one that's better than him too. However, what I would say is that if you give him enough time and if you ride, I believe it is 35 kilometers, which is a long ride. However, if you do go into player stats, you can see just how far you have ridden. So if he is your first horse, you're going to be able to keep track of that. And after riding Pebbles for what's going to feel like is an extremely long time, you're going to unlock a perk, Good Old Pebbles. And after 35 kilometers, he is going to drastically get better in almost every single way, including value. So if you wanted to sell him now, you're going to be making an awful lot of money. But it's the carry capacity, which is why I love Pebbles so much. He's pretty fast, pretty durable, and has a huge carry capacity once you've leveled him up. Another handy tip is remembering that if you are traveling the medieval plains, that you're going to be needing a torch if you are traveling at night. If you do not have a torch out, they're going to think you're up to no good. Simply press down on a D-pad to get your torch out. But there we have it, guys. There is a few more tips and tricks for you to get you started and going in Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Let me know down in the comments if any of these tips were useful to you, if you have your own tips, for instance. And of course, if this video was enjoyable, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Until next time, I will see you in the next video real soon. Until then, take it easy and happy gaming. And if you've stuck around to the very end of this tips video, seriously, a huge thank you to you. And as a bonus tip, note where I am on the map. Now, it is a long way away from your starting location, but you can get there very early game. What I would recommend to you, bring a digestive potion. And don't forget to thank me later.